I walked into the kitchen and heard my son whisper into his phone, "If she doesn't die soon, we lose the house. The investor wants an answer by Friday." It was September 24th, 2024, exactly 6:47 p.m. I know because I stood there, frozen, counting the ticks of the antique wall clock in the hallway. 43 seconds. 43 ticks, 43 heartbeats that felt like they were tearing something inside my chest. I'd just come in from the garden. Robert's roses needed deadheading before the first frost. The smell of wet soil was still on my hands, trapped under my fingernails, mixing with the scent of the lavender I'd brushed against on the path. My orthopedic shoes had been silent on the wooden porch. That's why he didn't hear me. The September wind suddenly felt cold against my neck, not the pleasant autumn chill I'd been enjoying moments before, but something else. Something that made my skin feel too tight, like my body knew what my mind was still trying to reject. There was a metallic taste in my mouth, shock, I suppose. Or maybe it was the taste of 47 years of motherhood curdling on my tongue. I stood there with my hand on the doorknob, my gardening gloves clutched in the other hand, and I listened to my son, my firstborn, the child I carried for 9 months, the boy I drove to soccer practice 347 times because I kept count in a little notebook, thinking someday we'd laugh about it. I listened to him calculate the timeline of my death. The ground felt like it had disappeared beneath my feet. You know that sensation when you miss a step going downstairs and for just a moment you're suspended in nothing? It felt like that, except I wasn't falling. I was standing perfectly still and the world was falling away from me instead. I could hear him moving around in there, the scrape of a chair against the tile floor, the refrigerator door opening. He was eating my food, in my kitchen, in the house his father and I bought in 1978 for $89,000, the house that's now worth $1.2 million, the house he was waiting to inherit. No, not inherit. That's too patient a word. He was waiting for me to die so he could cash out. I took 3 steps backward, deliberately, carefully, the way you back away from a dangerous animal, except the dangerous thing wasn't in the kitchen. It was the knowledge now living inside my skull, taking up residence, refusing to leave. I opened the garden gate, let it creak, let the hinges announce me. I walked up the porch steps again, normally this time, like a woman who hadn't just heard her own son discuss her death like a stock option about to expire. When I walked into the kitchen, Daniel looked up and smiled. "Hey, Mom, didn't hear you come in." His smile was easy, comfortable. The smile of a man with nothing to hide, or perhaps of a man who'd gotten so comfortable hiding things that his face no longer betrayed him. "Just came in from the garden," I said. My voice sounded normal. I don't know how. "The roses are looking beautiful this year." "That's great, Mom." He was already looking back at his phone. I washed my hands at the sink. The water was too hot, but I didn't adjust it. I watched the soil spiral down the drain and thought about erosion, about how things wear away so gradually you don't notice until there's nothing left but a hollow. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" I asked. "I have leftover pot roast." "Yeah, actually, that'd be great." I served him. My hands shook as I spooned the meat and vegetables onto Robert's old blue willow china, but only imperceptibly. Just a small tremor, the kind people attribute to age, the kind that makes you invisible. Daniel ate 3 helpings. He told me about work, something about a project deadline, a difficult client. I nodded in the right places. I asked appropriate questions, and the entire time I watched him, really watched him. This was the child who had chicken pox at age 7, and I sat with him for 3 nights straight, reading him every book we owned. This was the teenager who broke his arm skateboarding and cried, not from pain, but from fear, and I held him and told him he was brave. This was the young man who called me at 2 a.m. from college, homesick and lonely, and I talked to him until the sun came up. This was the man who was waiting for me to die. He left at 8:15 p.m., gave me a kiss on the cheek. "Love you, Mom. I'll call you next week." "I love you too," I said, and I meant it. That was the worst part. I still meant it. I locked the door behind him. I stood in the hallway for a long time, listening to the house settle around me. The creak of old wood, the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of that damn clock. Then I walked upstairs to Robert's study, and I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. The next morning, I woke at 5:43 a.m., except I didn't wake because I'd never slept. I'd been sitting in Robert's old leather chair, the one that still holds the impression of his body after 4 years, the one that still smells faintly of his cherry wood pipe tobacco, even though I've washed the upholstery twice, trying to preserve the scent and terrified it will fade completely. The study was cold. I hadn't turned on the heat. Dawn was just starting to break through the heavy curtains, creating thin lines of gray light across the mahogany desk. I wasn't crying. I want to be clear about that. There were no tears. Tears would have meant I was surprised, and somewhere deep down, below the shock, below the hurt, I wasn't surprised at all. That realization was worse than the betrayal itself. I stood up. My knees protested, 72-year-old knees always do, and I walked to the filing cabinet in the corner, the one Robert installed himself in 1983. Dark green metal, 4 drawers, a lock that sticks a little on humid days. The key is hidden inside a fake dictionary on the 3rd shelf, Webster's Complete English Dictionary, 1979 edition. Robert hollowed it out as a joke, said we needed a place for state secrets. We used to keep emergency cash in there, $200 in 20s. The money's gone now. I spent it on Daniel's car repair 2 years ago, but the key remains. I opened the bottom drawer. It groaned like an old man standing up. Inside were folders, so many folders, years of paperwork organized by Robert's meticulous system, property documents, insurance, medical records, tax returns dating back to 1985. And there, in a folder marked Family Financial Records, was the evidence I didn't want to find but knew I would. Bank statements going back 3 years, every loan I'd given Daniel highlighted in yellow by my own hand because I'd tracked them, telling myself it was just to keep records, not because I didn't trust him. $47,000. I said the number out loud to the empty room. $47,000. Car repairs that turned out to be a down payment on a boat he sold 6 months later, medical bills for a surgery that his insurance actually covered, his daughter Emma's tuition that I later learned he'd borrowed from me and then borrowed again from Emma's college fund to cover a bad investment. Not $1 repaid. Not one. I found the document he'd asked me to sign 6 months ago. He'd brought it over on a Sunday afternoon in March with coffee and croissants from that expensive bakery downtown, the kind of Sunday visit that felt generous until you realized it came with paperwork. "It's just estate planning, Mom," he'd said. "Harold Pembroke suggested it. If anything happens to you, this way the house transfers smoothly. No probate, no headaches for me and Christine." A quitclaim deed. He wanted me to sign over my house while I was still alive. I refused. I remember his face when I said no, the way his smile tightened, the way he'd said, "Mom, you're being paranoid. I'm trying to help you." I'd felt guilty then, apologized, made him more coffee. I didn't feel guilty now. I moved to the next drawer, personal correspondence. I found letters from Christine, my daughter, exactly 4 letters in 10 years, all thank you notes for Christmas checks. The most recent one from last December: Dear Mother, thank you for the generous gift. Hope you're well. Love, Christine. 15 words, printed from a computer, not even handwritten. I picked up the phone on Robert's desk, the old landline with the curly cord that twists around itself. I still pay $23 for it because it feels like keeping Robert alive somehow. His voice is still on the answering machine. You've reached the Morrison residence. We can't come to the phone right now. I pressed the button for saved messages. I haven't deleted voicemails in 4 years. The phone company allows you to save 50 messages. I have 47. I listened to them, all of them. I made myself listen. Daniel's voice over and over. Just checking in, Mom. Wanted to see how you're doing. Thinking about you. I grabbed my calendar, the paper one I keep on the desk, where I mark doctor's appointments and grocery shopping days, and the rare occasions when someone visits. I went through the calls, matched them to the calendar. A pattern emerged like a photograph developing in chemicals. Daniel called every 20 days, almost exactly. 20 days, 22 days, 19 days, never more than 25 days apart. But visits? I counted the marks. 4 times in the past year. 4 times he'd actually come to see me, each visit within 48 hours of asking for money. The space between the calls and the visits, that space was my life. That space was me, alone, in this house, waiting for a phone to ring, telling myself my children were busy, making excuses for them. That's when I found the letter. It was in Robert's desk drawer, in my own handwriting. I'd forgotten I'd written it. October 12th, 2019, 1 month after Robert's funeral. The paper was cream-colored linen, expensive, the kind we used to use for important correspondence. My handwriting was shaky. I remembered my hands couldn't stop trembling that whole first year. My dearest children, it began. Your father is gone, and I know you're grieving. I know I'm not the only one who lost him. Daniel, you lost a father who taught you to fish and to change a tire. Christine, you lost a father who danced with you in the kitchen and called you his princess. I know you'll grieve differently than I do. I must give you space. I must give you grace. I must not burden you with my loneliness. You have your own lives, your own families. I must be patient. I must remember that absence is not abandonment. It's just life. Love always, Mother. I read it 3 times. Then I spoke to the empty room, to the ghost of my husband, to the woman I'd been 5 years ago. I was wrong. My voice was steady, calm. It surprised me. I gave them space. They took everything. I gave them grace. They mistook it for weakness. I told myself their absence was grief, but it wasn't. It was indifference. And I've been making excuses for them for 5 years. I stood up. The morning light was fuller now, filling the study with a gray-gold autumn glow. Dust motes floated in the air like tiny planets in their own solar systems. I walked to the window and looked out at the garden. Robert's roses, the stone path we laid together in 1989, 1 stone at a time, our hands muddy and our backs aching. The bird bath we bought on our 30th anniversary. The garden where I'd been standing yesterday, innocent and stupid, thinking about pruning schedules instead of how my son was pricing out my death. I pulled out my cell phone, the one Daniel doesn't know I upgraded last year, the one that works perfectly fine, despite him constantly telling me I should let him help me with technology. I scrolled through my contacts to Harold Pembroke, my estate attorney, Robert's college roommate, a man who had been at our wedding, had held both my children as babies, had cried at Robert's funeral. It was 9:02 a.m. on a Wednesday. Harold would be in his office. I dialed. He answered on the second ring. "Margaret, Is everything all right? Harold, I said, I need to see you today, this afternoon if possible, and I need you to keep this meeting off your calendar. Don't write it down, don't tell your secretary. Can you do that for me? There was a pause. Harold is 79 years old and he's been a lawyer for 53 years. He understands what it means when someone asks to meet off the books. I have a lunch meeting I can move, he said. Come by at 1:30, back entrance. Thank you. Margaret, are you in some kind of trouble? I looked around Robert's study, at the life we built, at the evidence of how little it meant to the people we'd built it for. No, I said. I'm finally getting out of it. I wore my navy church dress, the one with the modest collar and the pearl buttons. I paired it with my pearl earrings, the ones Robert gave me on our 25th anniversary, and my good leather pumps that I have to use an insole in now, but they still look dignified. I chose this outfit deliberately because when you're 72 and you're about to dismantle your children's expectations, you wear the armor of respectability. You look like exactly what you are, a woman who has done everything right, everything by the book, everything the world told her to do. It makes people listen differently. Harold's office is downtown, in one of those old buildings with marble floors and brass fixtures that get polished every Thursday by a man named Luis who's been doing it for 30 years. I know this because Harold told me once, and I remembered, because I remember things about people. That's what people who care do. They remember. I parked in the back lot. The back entrance Harold mentioned is through the service hallway, past the building maintenance office. At 1:30 p.m. exactly, I knocked on the unmarked door that leads directly into Harold's personal office, bypassing the reception area. Harold opened it himself. He's gotten older. We all have. His hair is completely white now, and he moves more slowly, but his eyes are still sharp behind his wire-rimmed glasses. Margaret, he took my hand in both of his. Come in. His office smells like old law books and lemon furniture polish, dark wood everywhere, shelves from floor to ceiling, a massive desk that has been in his family for 4 generations, a window overlooking the street below. Coffee? He asked. No, thank you. We sat, me in the leather chair across from his desk, him settling into his chair with a small grunt of effort. He pulled out a yellow legal pad. Harold has never trusted computers, and a fountain pen. Tell me, he said. So I did. I told him about September 24th at 6:47 p.m. I told him exactly what I heard. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. The facts were devastating enough. Harold's face didn't change, but his pen stopped moving. That's how I knew he understood. I see, he said quietly. Then, I'm sorry, Margaret. Don't be sorry, just help me. He nodded. Your current will. Everything split equally between Daniel and Christine, correct? Yes. The house, my savings, the investments, all of it divided 50-50. And the total value of your estate. I'd done the math last night, 3 a.m., when most 72-year-old women are sleeping peacefully, not calculating their net worth like ammunition. The house is worth approximately $1.2 million. My savings and investments total $340,000. After taxes and fees, roughly $1.4 million, give or take. Harold wrote this down. And you want to change the distribution. I want to remove them entirely. His pen stopped again. He looked up at me. Entirely? Almost. They each receive $5,000, the exact amount I gave them when they graduated college. Everything else goes to charity. Harold set down his pen. He took off his glasses. He cleaned them with a small cloth from his desk drawer. A delaying tactic, I realized. He was giving me time to reconsider. Margaret, I have to ask, is this about the comment you overheard, or is there more? There's always more, Harold. The comment was just the moment I stopped lying to myself about it. I opened my purse and pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of the bank statements, the loan requests, the timeline of calls and visits. I'd organized it all this morning while my coffee went cold. I slid it across the desk. $47,000 in 3 years, not $1 repaid. 4 visits in 12 months, each visit within 2 days of asking for money. Daniel tried to get me to sign over my house 6 months ago. Christine hasn't been here in person in 14 months. Harold read through the documents. I watched his face, watched a man who has known my children since birth realize what they'd become. "Jesus, Margaret," he whispered. "I gave them everything. Robert and I worked for 32 years. We saved, we sacrificed, we paid for their educations, their weddings, their first cars. We babysat their children. We showed up. Always, we showed up." My voice cracked on that last part, just slightly. I steadied it. "And they showed up when they needed money. That's what I've become to them, Harold, a locked vault with a death timer." Harold put the papers down. "If you do this, they'll fight it. Can they win? No, not if we do this right. You're of sound mind, you have clear reasons, I'll document everything. But Margaret, they're your children. This will destroy your relationship with them." I smiled. It felt strange on my face. "What relationship, Harold? The one where they wait for me to die?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out a fresh legal pad. "All right, let's do this properly. You mentioned charity. Do you have something specific in mind?" "The house goes into a charitable trust. Sell it, use the proceeds to establish a scholarship fund in Robert's name, the Morrison Memorial Scholarship for first-generation college students. Robert was the first person in his family to graduate college. It mattered to him." Harold was writing. "And the liquid assets?" "Split between the scholarship fund and one other thing. I want to establish a college fund for Emma, Daniel's daughter. She's 19. She's studying at State. She's the only one who still visits me without asking for money. $50,000 in a trust she can access for education only. Daniel doesn't know about this, and he never will until it's too late. And Daniel and Christine receive $5,000 each. Exactly $5,000 each. In the notes, you'll write, 'This amount represents the same gift I gave them upon their college graduation, when they were just beginning their lives. I hope it serves them better now.'" Harold looked at me, really looked at me. "That's brutal, Margaret. Is it, or is it honest?" He nodded slowly. "I'll need a few days to draft this. You'll need to come in to sign, and we'll need witnesses, not your children, obviously. How long will it take?" "I can have it ready by Monday, October 1st. "Perfect." I stood to leave. Harold stood as well. He walked me to the door, then stopped. "Margaret, one more thing. They'll ask about your competency. They'll say you weren't in your right mind. I need to protect you from that angle. What do you need?" "A letter from your doctor, confirming you're mentally sound. Can you get that?" "My doctor is Janet Chen. She's been my physician for 17 years. I see her every 3 months. She knows I still do the crossword puzzle every morning and can remember every medication I've ever taken and their dosages. I'll call her today." "Good. And Margaret, for what it's worth, Robert would be proud of you." I felt tears then for the first time. I blinked them back. "Robert would be heartbroken." "Yes," Harold said, "but proud anyway." September 28th, a Friday. I woke at 6:15 a.m., got dressed in comfortable clothes, slacks and a cardigan, and drove to First National Bank. I've held accounts there for 41 years. The bank has changed names 3 times, been bought and sold by corporations I can't keep track of, but my account numbers remain the same. There's a loyalty in that, I suppose, or maybe just inertia. I asked to speak with Vernon. He's the branch manager, and he's known me for 12 years. He's a slight man, maybe 55, with kind eyes and a habit of calling people by name. "Mrs. Morrison, good morning. How can I help you today?" "I need to make some changes to my accounts, Vernon." We sat in his office. It's a glass cube in the corner of the bank with vertical blinds that never quite close all the way. Professional, but not private. I could see the tellers working, the customers waiting in line, normal people doing normal banking on a normal Friday. There was nothing normal about what I was about to do. "What kind of changes?" Vernon asked, pulling up my accounts on his computer. "I need to remove the co-signers from my checking account, both of them." Vernon's fingers paused on the keyboard. "Your son and daughter? They've been on this account for Let me check. 6 years? 6 years, 4 months. I added them in May of 2018, after Robert died. They told me it was for emergencies, in case I was hospitalized or couldn't manage my affairs. And now? Now I can manage my own affairs. Vernon nodded slowly. He'd been a banker long enough to hear the story beneath the words. I'll need your signature and ID. Is there anything else? Yes. I want to withdraw all but $3,000. I'll need a cashier's check. That made him pause. All but $3,000? Mrs. Morrison, you have $42,000 in checking. I know exactly how much I have, Vernon. Of course, forgive me, but I have to ask, is someone pressuring you to do this? Are you being coerced? It was a fair question. It's what banks are trained to ask when an elderly person suddenly moves large amounts of money. No one is pressuring me. I'm making a choice, a deliberate one. Can I ask what the check is for? My future. Vernon looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Give me a few minutes to process this. While I waited, I watched the bank. A young mother with a toddler making a deposit, an elderly man asking questions about his mortgage, a teenage girl opening her first savings account, her father beside her, proud. Regular people, living regular lives, no one waiting for anyone to die. Vernon returned with paperwork, forms to sign, identification to verify, the careful bureaucracy of erasing her children from your finances. The co-signers will receive notification in the mail, Vernon said. Is that all right? That's fine. And here's your cashier's check, $39,000. I looked at the check. All those zeros, all that time and work reduced to numbers on paper. There's one more thing, I said. I need to cancel a credit card. Vernon looked confused. I don't see any credit cards on your account. It's not on my account. It's on Daniel's. I'm listed as the primary cardholder. He's an authorized user. I gave him the card 3 years ago for emergencies. Vernon navigated to a different screen. I see it. Card ending in 3847. There's currently a balance of $892. What are the pending charges? One charge, last night, Tony's Steakhouse, $892. A restaurant. He'd taken someone to dinner on my credit card while planning my death. I want to approve that charge one last time, I said. Let it go through, then cancel the card immediately. Vernon's eyebrows rose slightly, but he was too professional to comment. Let him have his last supper, I said. Vernon typed for a moment. Done. The charge will process and the card will be deactivated within 24 hours. He'll receive a notice. Perfect. I stood to leave. Vernon stood as well. Mrs. Morrison, I don't know what's going on, but I hope you're okay. I'm better than I've been in years, Vernon. Thank you. I left First National Bank at 10:47 a.m. I drove directly to Riverside Credit Union on the other side of town, a bank where I'd never had an account, a bank where my children didn't know I existed. I opened a new checking account, deposited the cashier's check, set up online banking with a password Daniel would never guess, Robert1952#, roses. The woman who helped me was young, maybe 30. Her name tag said Jennifer. Is there anything else I can help you with today, Mrs. Morrison? No, Jennifer. You've been very helpful. Are you new to the area? I smiled. No, I've lived here for 47 years. I'm just starting over. October 1st, a Tuesday. The autumn light came through the steady window at a slant, painting everything gold and amber. It was 9:30 a.m., and I was writing letters, not typing them, writing them, with my fountain pen, the one Robert gave me on our 10th anniversary with my initials engraved on the cap, and cream linen stationery I'd been saving for something important. This was important. I'd been awake since 5 a.m., making coffee, toasting bread I couldn't eat, pacing the house. Finally, at 8:15, I'd sat down at Robert's desk and started writing. 3 letters, one to Daniel, one to Christine, one to Emma. The letters to my children were identical. I decided that at 3 a.m. when I was lying awake staring at the ceiling. They would get the same words, the same truth. Equal treatment, which is all they'd ever claimed to want. I wrote slowly, carefully. My handwriting is still good. It's one of the few things about me that hasn't deteriorated with age. All those years of Catholic school, Sister Margaret rapping our knuckles if our letters weren't perfectly formed. Dear Daniel, I wrote. Then I paused, crossed it out, started over. Daniel. Just his name. He didn't deserve dear. I know what you've been waiting for. On September 24th at 6:47 p.m., I overheard you on the phone. You were in my kitchen. You said, "If she doesn't die soon, we lose the house. The investor wants an answer by Friday." You sure don't remember saying that. It was just another phone call, another transaction, another moment when my life was reduced to a balance sheet you needed to settle. But I remember. I will remember it every day for the rest of my life. You'll be waiting a very long time for what you think is coming. I've made other arrangements. The house, the money, the inheritance you've been calculating in spreadsheets and discussing with investors. None of it is yours. None of it will ever be yours. I've changed my will. You'll receive exactly $5,000, the amount I gave you when you graduated college, the amount I gave you when you were standing at the beginning of your life, full of potential, before you became someone who counts the days until his mother's death. Everything else goes to charity, to a scholarship fund in your father's name, to people who are just starting out, the way you once were. You'll probably fight this. You'll call me incompetent, senile, confused. You'll say I wasn't in my right mind. But I've taken steps. I have letters from my doctor, documentation from my attorney. This decision is sound, legal, and final. I want you to know something. I loved you. I still love you. That's the worst part. Love doesn't stop just because respect does. But love is not the same as letting you destroy me while I wait for you to care. You're 47 years old. You have a job, a house, a life. You don't need my money. You just want it. There's a difference, and I'm finally old enough to know it. I won't see you again, not because I'm running away, but because there's nothing left between us except your disappointment and my grief. And I've decided I'd rather live with my grief alone than share it with the people who caused it. Goodbye, Daniel. Mother. My hand was shaking by the end. I set down the pen and flexed my fingers. The arthritis was flaring. It always does when I'm stressed. But I wasn't done. I wrote the same letter to Christine, word for word, the same truth, the same goodbye. Then I started the third letter. This one was different. This one made me cry. Dearest Emma. Just those two words and I had to stop, put down the pen, press my fingers against my eyes until the tears stopped. I continued. I'm writing this because I need you to understand something that I'm not sure I can explain in person without breaking down completely. Your father is going to be very angry with me soon. He's going to tell you I've lost my mind, that I'm senile, confused, cruel. He's going to paint me as a bitter old woman who destroyed her family out of spite. I want you to have my side of the story before you hear his. On September 24th, I heard your father say something that changed everything. I won't repeat it here. It's too painful, and you shouldn't carry that burden. But it made me realize that I've been making excuses for him for years, mistaking absence for busyness, mistaking requests for relationship, mistaking his tolerance of me for love. I've changed my will. Your father will be upset about this, very upset. But Emma, I need you to know something. I've set up a college fund for you, $50,000. It's in a trust. You can use it for tuition, books, housing, anything educational. Your father doesn't know about it, and by the time you receive this letter, it will be too late for him to interfere. I'm doing this because you're the only one who still treats me like a person instead of a problem. You're the only one who asks about my day, who remembers stories about your grandfather, who visits without needing something in return. You're 19 years old. You still have time to become someone different than your father. Please don't waste it. I'm leaving town for a while. I need space to figure out who I am when I'm not performing the role of mother for people who stopped wanting one. I don't know when I'll be back, maybe 2 months, maybe longer, but I'll write to you. I'll call you. You are not losing me, I promise. Your father made a choice about what kind of son to be. You get to make your own choice about what kind of granddaughter to be. Choose wisely, choose kindly, choose to be someone who treats people like they matter while they're still alive to appreciate it. I love you, Emma. I'm so proud of you, and I'm sorry you're going to be caught in the middle of this. All my love. Grandma, Margaret. I folded the letters carefully, 3 identical cream envelopes. I addressed them in my careful script. I put stamps on them, the forever stamps with the flags on them that seem ironic now, promises of forever from a postal service, from a country, from a family that didn't keep them. The letters to Daniel and Christine went in my purse. I'd mail them from somewhere else, somewhere far from here. Emma's letter went into a separate envelope with a note attached, to be opened only after you've heard from your father about my will. Then I started packing. 1 suitcase. That's all I allowed myself. I stood in my bedroom, the bedroom I'd slept in for 47 years, the room where my children were conceived, where Robert died in my arms at 3:32 a.m. on October 8th, 2019. And I decided what parts of my life were worth carrying forward. Practical clothes, my medications, my blood pressure pills in their weekly organizer, my reading glasses, my phone charger, the photo album with pictures of Robert, not pictures of the children. I couldn't bear to look at them now. I packed Robert's watch, the one he wore every day for 30 years. It doesn't work anymore, stopped at 3:32 a.m. on the day he died, and I've never had it fixed. I don't wear it, I just carry it sometimes when I need to remember what love actually looked like. I packed my journal, the leather-bound one I've been writing in sporadically since Robert died. Most of the pages are blank. That felt like a metaphor. By noon, I was done. 1 suitcase. 72 years of life reduced to what would fit in an overhead compartment. I'd made a reservation, online. By myself, despite Daniel constantly telling me I couldn't manage technology. A cottage in Rockport, Maine. 2 months, October 4th through December 4th. $2,400. I'd found it on a rental website at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep, and something about the photos spoke to me. A small place overlooking the ocean, white walls, simple furniture, a porch where you could watch the sunrise, a place where no one knew me, where no one was waiting for me to die so they could sell the view. I booked it under my maiden name, Margaret Holloway, the name I had before Robert, before children, before I became someone whose value was measured in property deeds and investment accounts. October 3rd, my last day in the house. I woke at 4:30 a.m., couldn't sleep anymore, didn't try. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table and watched the sunrise through the window above the sink. This kitchen. I'd made approximately 16,000 meals in this kitchen. That's not an exaggeration. I did the math once during a bout of insomnia. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, times 3 people, times 32 years, minus the meals we ate out or the kids ate at school. 16,000 meals, give or take. 16,000 acts of love that became invisible, unremarkable, expected. I washed my coffee cup, dried it, put it back in the cabinet. Then I walked through the house one last time. The living room where we'd hosted Christmas for 27 years. The spot where the tree always stood. The indent in the carpet where Robert's recliner had been before I donated it because I couldn't bear to look at it empty. The dining room where we'd celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, graduations. The table that seats 10 but has only seated 1 for 4 years. The bathroom where I taught Daniel and Christine to brush their teeth. The growth chart penciled on the doorframe that I can't bring myself to paint over. Their old bedrooms. Daniel still has his high school baseball trophies on the shelf. Christine still has the wallpaper with tiny flowers she picked out when she was 12. Neither of them has visited these rooms in a decade. I didn't cry. I'd done all my crying. This was just observation, documentation, saying goodbye to the life I thought I'd have versus the one I actually got. At 5:45 a.m., I carried my suitcase to the car. The Honda Civic I bought 3 years ago, paid in full, 34,000 miles, reliable, mine. I went back inside one more time. I took a piece of paper from Robert's desk, his personal stationery with his name embossed at the top, Robert J. Morrison, because even in death he was more present than my living children, and I wrote a note. Gone traveling. Will return when I'm ready. Do not call. Mother. I placed it on the kitchen counter, held it down with the cast iron trivet Robert made in a metalworking class at the community college in 1982. He'd been so proud of it. It was lopsided and the handle was welded crookedly, but he'd made it with his hands and given it to me, and I'd used it for 43 years. I locked the door. I put the spare key under the mat, the same place it's been for 47 years, the place every burglar knows to look, but it doesn't matter because burglars aren't what I'm afraid of anymore. I got in my car. I programmed the GPS. 512 miles to Rockport, Maine, approximately 8 hours and 43 minutes, depending on traffic. I didn't look back at the house. In movies, people always look back, one last longing glance, a moment of doubt. I didn't doubt. I just drove. The sun was coming up behind me as I pulled onto the highway, heading north, and for the first time in 5 years, I felt like I was moving towards something instead of away from it. I arrived in Rockport at 3:17 p.m. The GPS had been optimistic about the travel time. I'd stopped twice, once for gas and once at a rest stop in New Hampshire, where I sat in my car eating a sandwich I'd packed that morning and wondered if this is what freedom felt like. Eating turkey on wheat bread in a parking lot at age 72 with no one waiting for you anywhere. It felt good. The cottage was exactly as it appeared in the photos, which surprised me. Usually things are smaller in person, shabbier, disappointing, but this place, it was perfect. A small white cottage with blue shutters set back from the main road down a gravel drive lined with pine trees. The ocean was visible through the trees, a slice of gray-blue water that moved and changed as I watched. The air smelled different here. Salt and pine and something clean, something that didn't smell like 47 years of accumulated life. The owner, Mrs. Opal Chen, was waiting for me on the porch. She's 83 years old and 4 feet 11 inches. I'd exchanged emails with her when I booked the cottage, and she'd written, "I'll leave the key under the mat if you arrive while I'm out." But here she was, in person, with a smile that reached her eyes. "You must be Margaret." "Mrs. Chen, thank you for meeting me." "Call me Opal. Everyone does. And I wanted to meet you. Make sure you found the place all right." She showed me inside. It's a simple cottage. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen with a small table by the window, a living room with a couch and a rocking chair, and a fireplace that Opal assured me works, though October is usually too warm to need it. The bedroom window faces the ocean. I stood there for a moment, watching the waves, and felt something in my chest loosen, something that had been clenched tight for so long I'd forgotten it was there. "Will this work for you?" Opal asked. "It's perfect. I live next door, the blue house about 100 yards that way." She pointed. "If you need anything, you come knock, doesn't matter what time." "Thank you. And Margaret, I don't know why you're here and I won't ask, but you look like someone who needs peace and quiet. You'll get both here." After Opal left, I unpacked. It took me 20 minutes. One suitcase doesn't take long to empty. I hung my clothes in the small closet, put my medications in the bathroom cabinet, set Robert's watch on the nightstand where I could see it. Then I sat on the porch and watched the sun set over the ocean. I'd never seen the ocean at sunset before. Not really. Robert and I had gone to the beach a few times when the kids were small, frantic trips full of sunscreen and sandy sandwiches and the constant vigilance of keeping 2 children from drowning. We never just sat, never just watched. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. The water reflected it all back like the ocean was on fire. And I sat there in a rocking chair that creaked when I moved, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt present. Not waiting, not remembering, just here, now, in this moment. My phone rang at 7:43 p.m. Daniel. I let it go to voicemail. He called again at 7:51, again at 8:03. I turned off my phone. That night, I slept in the unfamiliar bed in the small cottage by the ocean. The sheets smelled like lavender detergent. The mattress was firmer than I was used to. The sound of waves was constant, a rhythm I'd never heard before. I slept for 9 hours straight. I didn't wake up once. The first week passed in a rhythm I hadn't known I was capable of. Every morning, I woke at 7:15 a.m., not because I set an alarm, but because my body decided that was the time. The morning light reflected off the ocean and danced on the ceiling of my bedroom, creating patterns that shifted and changed like they were alive. I established a routine the way you build a life, one small decision at a time. 7:15, wake up. Lie in bed for a few minutes watching the light on the ceiling. 7:30, coffee. I bought a simple coffee maker at the hardware store in town. Nothing fancy, just a blue ceramic mug, medium roast coffee, a splash of milk. I sit at the kitchen table by the window and watch the ocean while the coffee cools to drinking temperature. 8 o'clock, walk on the beach. It's October in Maine. The tourists are mostly gone. The beach is empty except for the occasional lobsterman checking his traps or a local walking their dog. I walk for exactly 45 minutes. I time it not because I'm training for anything, but because I like the structure, the knowing. 9 o'clock, breakfast. I've learned to cook for one. Scrambled eggs, toast, sometimes oatmeal with cinnamon and brown sugar. I eat slowly. No one is waiting for the table. No one needs anything. The only urgency is the cooling of the food. 10 to 12, I write. Not here in this narration, but in my journal, the leather-bound one I brought with me. I'm writing my memoir, not for publication, not for my children. For me, for clarity. I'm writing down everything I remember about Robert, about our marriage, about who I was before I became someone's mother, someone's burden. 12:30, lunch. Usually something simple. Soup, a sandwich. I shop at the small market in town twice a week. The cashier, whose name is Denise, has stopped asking me where I'm from. She just says, "How are you today, hun?" and bags my groceries and tells me to have a good afternoon. 1 to 3, I read. I brought 3 books with me. I've read them all. Opal has a bookshelf in the cottage filled with mysteries and biographies and old paperbacks with cracked spines. I'm working my way through them. I'd forgotten how much I loved reading, how books can take you out of your own life for a little while. 3 o'clock, tea. I bought a kettle at the hardware store. Opal gave me some loose tea leaves from her garden. It's some kind of herbal blend. She won't tell me what's in it, says it's a family recipe. It tastes like autumn. 3:30 to 5 o'clock, I sit on the porch and watch the ocean. Sometimes I knit. I bought yarn and needles at a craft store. I'm making a scarf. No one needs a scarf. I'm making it because I can, because the repetitive motion is soothing, because at the end, I'll have made something that didn't exist before. 6 o'clock, dinner. I've become adventurous. I'm cooking things I never made at home, experimenting. Last night I made fish. I've never cooked fish. Robert didn't like it. Daniel was allergic. So for 47 years, I never learned. Now I'm teaching myself. I overcooked it, ate it anyway, laughed at myself for being 72 and still learning. 7 o'clock, I wash dishes by hand. There's no dishwasher, just me and the sink and the warm water and the knowledge that I'll use these same dishes tomorrow. 8 o'clock, more reading, or sometimes just sitting, doing nothing, being still. 10 o'clock, bed. I sleep better here, deeper. No footsteps on the stairs to startle me awake, no phone calls at strange hours, just the sound of waves and wind and my own breathing. On October 18th, 14 days after I arrived, I stepped on the scale in the bathroom. I've lost weight over the past few years. Grief weight, I suppose, the kind that melts off when you're too sad to eat or too busy taking care of everyone else to take care of yourself. The scale in Opal's cottage read 142 pounds, 4 pounds more than when I arrived. I stood there, staring at the number, and started crying. Not sad tears, something else. Relief, maybe, or recognition. I was coming back, physically, filling back in. That afternoon, Opal knocked on my door. She was carrying a covered dish. "Dumplings," she said. "I made too many. You'd be doing me a favor." This was a lie. Opal never makes too much of anything. She's been a widow for 17 years. She knows exactly how to cook for one. But I took the dish and thanked her and invited her in for tea. We sat on the porch. She didn't ask me questions, didn't pry, just sipped her tea and watched the ocean and said, "Weather's turning. We'll have frost by next week." I've never experienced a Maine autumn. It's something. Cold but beautiful. Everything dies prettier here. I liked that. Everything dies prettier here. It felt true. Opal, can I ask you something? Do you have children? 2 sons, one in Seattle, one in Portland, the Oregon Portland, not the Maine one. Do they visit? Twice a year, Christmas and my birthday. They're good boys, busy, but good. Do you mind that they're far away? She thought about this, took a long sip of tea. I used to. When my husband first died, I minded terribly, felt abandoned. But then I realized something. They're living their lives. That's what I raised them to do. And I'm living mine. That's what I survived 70 years to do. We love each other, but we don't owe each other our loneliness. We don't owe each other our loneliness. I like that. You running from your kids? Opal asked, direct, simple, no judgment in the question. Yes. They know where you are? No. Good. Everyone should disappear at least once. Reminds people you're a person, not a fixture. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, then Opal stood to leave. Margaret, one more thing. That phone of yours. I haven't seen you use it once. I turned it off. That's fine, but maybe turn it on once a week, just to check. Not for them, for you, so you know you still can if you want to. After she left, I thought about that. I turned off my phone on October 4th, 14 days of silence. 14 days of not knowing if Daniel had called, if Christine had noticed, if anyone cared. I turned it on at 7 p.m. It took a moment to power up. Then it started vibrating, notifications flooding in like a dam had broken. 37 missed calls. Daniel, 28. Christine, 9, 16 voicemails, 41 text messages. I didn't listen to the voicemails, didn't read the texts. I scrolled through the call log and noticed something. All of Daniel's calls came in the first 3 days, October 4th, 5th, and 6th. 28 calls in 3 days. Then, nothing. He'd stopped trying. Christine's calls were different, spaced out. October 4th, October 7th, October 11th, October 15th, yesterday, like she was calling out of obligation every few days just to say she tried. But there was one more notification, an email from Emma. Subject, Graham, please read this. I opened it. Graham, I don't know where you are. Dad is going crazy. He says you disappeared. He's talking about filing a missing persons report. He's talking about lawyers and doctors and competency hearings. He's scaring me. But I found your journal, the one you left on the coffee table. I read the entry from October 3rd. I understand now. At least I think I do. I don't know if you meant for me to find it, but I did. And I need you to know something. I'm not angry. I'm not scared. I'm proud of you. Dad called me yesterday, asked if I knew where you were. I said no. He asked if you'd seemed confused lately. I said no. He asked if I thought you were capable of making your own decisions. I said yes. I said it very clearly. He didn't like that. Graham, I don't know if you're reading this, but if you are, I hope you're okay. I hope you're somewhere beautiful. I hope you're being selfish for once in your life. Call me if you want to, or don't. I'll understand either way. I love you, Emma. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back, Emma, I'm in Maine. I'm safe. I'm more okay than I've been in years. Your father will be very angry with me soon. There are things happening that he doesn't know about yet. Legal things, financial things, things I should have done years ago. I need you to know that none of this is your fault. You are not responsible for the relationship between me and your father. You are not the bridge that has to hold us together. You're 19 years old. You deserve to live your life without carrying other people's damage. I left something for you, a letter and something else. You'll know when the time comes. Thank you for watering my plants. I saw the roses you put in the vase by the window. They were beautiful. I love you, Graham. I sent it. Then I turned off my phone again. That night I made tea and sat on the porch and watched the stars. You can see more stars here, without the city lights, without the pollution, without everything in the way. Just darkness and pinpricks of light, and the knowledge that some of those stars are already dead, and we're just seeing the light they sent out years ago, before they knew they were ending. I'm 72 years old. I'm a star that's still burning, and for the first time in a long time, I want to see what happens next. October 20th, a Friday. I was making coffee when I heard a car on the gravel drive. I looked out the kitchen window and saw a taxi pulling up to the cottage. My first thought was, they found me. Daniel tracked me down. He's here to bring me back, to tell me I'm incompetent, to put me in a facility where I'll be safe and managed and slowly erased. I set down my coffee mug, my hands were shaking, and I went to the door. But it wasn't Daniel. It was Emma. She was standing there with a backpack over one shoulder and a rolling suitcase at her feet. Her hair was in a messy bun. She was wearing jeans and an oversized sweatshirt from her university. She looked tired. She looked perfect. Graham, she said, I took a bus, 7 hours. Is it okay that I'm here? I couldn't speak. I just opened my arms and she walked into them, and I held my granddaughter for the first time in 6 months and felt something crack open in my chest, something that had been closed and armored and determined to survive alone. It's more than okay, I finally managed. Come in. Are you hungry? Have you eaten? I'll make you something. She laughed. You sound like yourself. What do you mean? Dad said you weren't yourself, that you were confused, maybe sick, but you sound exactly like Graham. We went inside. I made her eggs and toast. She ate 3 helpings. We didn't talk about Daniel. We didn't talk about the will or the money or any of it. We just talked. She told me about her classes, about a roommate who snores, about the boy she likes but is too scared to talk to, about how she's thinking of changing her major from business to social work because she wants to actually help people, not just help them profit. I told her about Opal, about the beach walks, about learning to cook fish, about the way the light looks on the ceiling in the morning. "Graham, can I stay for a few days?" she asked. I told my professors I had a family emergency, which is technically true. My family is an emergency. I told her you can stay as long as you want. That week was the best week I'd had in 5 years. Emma and I fell into a rhythm. We'd wake up and make coffee together, walk on the beach together. She walked slower than me, still not awake, but I didn't mind. We'd spend mornings reading. She'd do her homework at the kitchen table while I worked on my memoir. We'd cook lunch together. She taught me how to make grilled cheese the way she liked it, with butter on the outside of the bread. I'd never done that before. In the afternoons, we'd talk. Really talk. She asked me about Robert, about what our marriage was like, about what I was like before I became someone's mother. "What did you want to be?" she asked on Wednesday afternoon. We were sitting on the porch. The weather had turned cold. We had blankets over our laps and mugs of tea warming our hands. "When you were my age, what did you want to be?" I thought about this. No one had asked me in 50 years. I wanted to be a teacher, English literature. I loved books, still do. But then I met your grandfather and we got married and I got pregnant with your father and teaching didn't happen. Do you regret it? I don't know. I regretted giving it up, but I didn't regret having your father then. He was a sweet baby, a sweet child. I don't know when that changed. He's not a bad person, Graham. No, he's just a selfish one. There's a difference. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, "He called me yesterday, asked if I knew where you were. I lied, said I had no idea." "I'm sorry you have to lie for me." "I'm not lying for you. I'm lying to him. There's a difference." I smiled. She sounded like me, like the version of me I used to be before I learned to soften everything. On Thursday, Emma said she needed to ask me something. The journal entry, the one you left on the coffee table.
"Did you leave it there on purpose for me to find?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because you're the only one who would understand, the only one who might still believe I was worth listening to." "What did Dad say, the thing you overheard?" I'd been waiting for this question, dreading it. But Emma deserved the truth. "He said, if she doesn't die soon, we lose the house. He was on the phone with someone, an investor. He was planning to sell my house before I was even dead." Emma's face did something complicated. Shock, anger, but not surprise. That was the worst part. She wasn't surprised. "I'm sorry, Graham. You don't need to apologize for him." "I know, but I am anyway, because someone should." That night, after Emma went to bed in the cottage's small bedroom, I'd insisted she take it. I was fine on the couch. I sat on the porch alone and thought about generational damage, about how hurt gets passed down like heirlooms, about how I'd spent 50 years trying to make sure my children never felt pain, and somehow that it made them incapable of recognizing it in others. But Emma was different. She'd felt pain. Her mother had left when she was 8. Daniel had been too absorbed in his own crisis to notice hers. She'd raised herself in a lot of ways, and somehow that hadn't made her cruel. It had made her careful, considerate, kind. Maybe you don't learn kindness from people who protect you from everything. Maybe you learn it from surviving what they couldn't prevent. October 27th, a Sunday. The weather had turned properly cold. The leaves on the trees were red and gold and orange. Everything was dying prettier, just like Opal said. Emma had been with me for a week. We'd fallen into such an easy rhythm that when I heard a car on the gravel drive at 10 a.m., my first thought wasn't alarm, it was annoyance. We'd been planning to bake something, apple pie from Robert's recipe, the one I'd promised to teach Emma. But when I looked out the window and saw the black rental car, I knew. Daniel. And Christine behind him, getting out of the passenger side. "Emma," I called. She came out of the bedroom in her pajamas. "Your father's here." Her face went pale. "How did he find us?" "I don't know. Does it matter?" "What do we do?" "You stay inside. This is between me and them." I went outside before they could knock, closed the door behind me, created a barrier. This cottage was mine. They weren't invited in. Daniel looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his face was thinner, there were shadows under his eyes. He was wearing expensive clothes, a designer jacket I didn't recognize, but he looked rumpled, desperate. Christine looked uncomfortable. She was dressed like she was going to brunch, heels on a gravel driveway. She kept her distance, let Daniel lead. "Mom?" Daniel's voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the anger underneath. What the hell are you doing? Good morning, Daniel, Christine. I'd ask how you found me, but I assume you hired someone. $1,200 for a private investigator. Do you know how much that cost? Yes, $1,200. You just said it. Mom, this isn't funny. You disappeared. No warning, no explanation. We've been worried sick. I almost laughed. Worried, is that what you're calling it? Christine stepped forward. Mom, please, can we go inside? It's cold. No. What? You're not coming inside. This is my space. You're not invited into it. Daniel's face flushed. Your space? Mom, you don't live here. This is some vacation rental. This is you running away from your responsibilities. What responsibilities, Daniel? What exactly am I responsible for? Dying on your schedule? The silence that followed was thick, heavy. Christine looked away. Daniel's jaw clenched. I don't know what you think you heard. September 24th, 6:47 p.m. You were in my kitchen, on your phone. You said, if she doesn't die soon, we lose the house. The investor wants an answer by Friday. I watched his face change, the anger draining away, replaced with something worse, recognition, the look of someone caught. Mom, that's not, you don't understand the context. Then explain the context. Explain to me the scenario in which that sentence is acceptable. He tried. For the next 10 minutes, he tried. The justifications came pouring out. The house was too big for me. I couldn't maintain it. It was dangerous. He was trying to help me. He'd found a buyer who would give us, he kept saying us, a good price. He was going to use the money to help me, put me somewhere safe, somewhere with care. A facility, I said. You were going to put me in a facility and sell my house and use my money to pay for it, and whatever was left over, what, was that for you? It's not like that. Then what is it like? Christine started crying, not loud sobs, just quiet tears running down her face. Mom, we're sorry, okay? We're sorry. We should have been better. We know that. But please don't do this. What, Christine? Whatever you're planning, Dad said you changed your will. He said you're cutting us out. He said, Harold Pembroke told you? No, Harold wouldn't tell us anything, but we're not stupid. You disappeared right after meeting with your lawyer. You've been gone for 3 weeks. You won't answer your phone. We can do the math. I sat down in the rocking chair on the porch. I was standing this whole time and my knees were hurting, and I realized I didn't need to stand for this. I didn't need to perform strength. I could sit. I could be 72 years old with bad knees and still have all the power in this moment. Yes, I said, I changed my will. The house is going into a charitable trust. My savings are establishing a scholarship fund in your father's name, Robert's name, not yours. You each inherit $5,000, the exact amount I gave you when you graduated college. Daniel's face went red, actually red. You can't do that. I already did. We'll fight it. We'll contest it. We'll prove you're not competent. I have a letter from my doctor. I have documentation from Harold. I have witnesses. You'll lose, and the legal fees will cost you more than you'd ever receive. Christine was full on crying now. Mom, please, I'm sorry. We're sorry. Don't do this. We're your children. You're my children when you need something. The rest of the time, I'm just an obstacle, an inconvenience, a woman taking too long to die. That's not fair, Daniel said. His voice was rising, losing control. We have lives. We have jobs. We can't just drop everything to what? Visit? Call? Ask how I'm doing without needing money? Daniel, you borrowed $47,000 from me in 3 years, not $1 repaid. You visited me 4 times in 12 months, each time within 2 days of asking for money. I kept track. I have the receipts, the calendar entries, the bank statements, all of it. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. You kept track? Someone had to remember I existed. That's when Emma opened the cottage door. She'd been inside the whole time, listening. Now she stood in the doorway in her pajamas and her messy bun and her university sweatshirt, and she looked at her father and said, "Gram's teaching me how to make Grandpa's apple pie from scratch. She offered to teach you 20 years ago, Dad. You said you didn't have time." Daniel turned on her. "Emma, what the hell are you doing here? Did you know where she was this whole time?" "Yes." "You lied to me." "Yes." "Emma, Dad, when's the last time you asked Gram how she was doing? Not her health, not the house, her. When's the last time you asked her about her day, about what she's reading, about what she remembers about Grandpa?" "Emma, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You need money, Gram has money, therefore Gram exists. That's the equation." Christine looked at Emma, then at me, then back at Emma. "You're on her side?" "I'm not on a side. I'm just paying attention. You should try it sometime, Aunt Christine. It's enlightening." Daniel took a step toward the porch, toward me. I didn't move, didn't flinch. "Mom, please, don't do this. We're family." "Are we?" I asked, "because family is supposed to love you while you're alive, not resent you for not dying fast enough." "That's not what I—" "Yes, it is. That's exactly what you meant on September 24th at 6:47 p.m. in my kitchen eating my food. You meant exactly that. And I heard it, and I can't unhear it. No matter how much you apologize, no matter how many tears Christine cries, I heard what I heard, and I know what I know." I stood up. My knees protested, but I ignored them. I looked at both my children, these people I'd carried and birthed and raised and loved and sacrificed for, and I said, "The house is mine. Robert and I bought it with money we earned over 32 years of marriage. We raised you there. We gave you everything we had. And when Robert died, I stayed there alone, maintaining it, paying for it, preserving it, thinking someday you'd want it because it held our memories, our family. But you don't want the memories. You want the equity. So here's what's going to happen. The house will be sold. The money will go to charity. You'll receive $5,000 each, and you'll never have to wait for me to die again, because as far as you're concerned, I'm already gone. Now get off my porch." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the ocean seemed to quiet. The wind stopped. Everything stopped. Christine broke first. "Mom, please. I'm not your mother anymore. I'm just Margaret, a woman who's finally living her life instead of waiting for it to matter to someone else." Daniel's face did something I'd never seen before. It crumpled, actually crumpled, like he was realizing for the first time that actions have consequences, that you can't wait for someone to die and then expect them to comfort you when they decide to live instead. "You're being cruel." "No, I'm being honest, and you're not used to it. You're used to me making things easy, making myself small, making myself convenient. But I'm 72 years old, and I have maybe 10 years left if I'm lucky, maybe 15 if I'm very lucky, and I've decided I'm not spending them making you comfortable while you wait for them to end." "So that's it?" Christine asked. "You're just done with us?" "I'm done being less than I am, so you can feel better about treating me like less than I am." They stood there for another minute, frozen, like they were waiting for me to take it back, to laugh and say I was kidding, to fold and apologize and make everything okay again. I didn't. Finally, Daniel turned and walked back to the car. Christine followed, her heels clicking on the gravel, unstable and sharp. They got in the car, started the engine, and then they were gone. Emma came out and stood beside me. We watched the car disappear down the coastal road. "Will they come back?" she asked. "They might, but I won't be waiting." We went inside. Emma made tea. I sat at the kitchen table and my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline, from relief, from the physical toll of finally standing up. Emma set a mug in front of me. "Gram, are you okay?"
I looked at my granddaughter, this girl who had traveled 7 hours on a bus to be with me,
who had lied to her father to protect me, who had watered my plants and read my journal and understood what I needed before I could ask for it. "I'm perfect," I said. "Let's make that pie." 6 months later. April 15th, a Tuesday, tax day, though I'd filed mine in February because I'm 72 and retired and have nothing but time and a strange satisfaction in being organized. I'm home now, but it's a different home. I sold the Victorian, the one Robert and I bought in 1978 for $89,000, the one worth $1.2 million. It went to a young couple with 2 small children. I met them once during the final walkthrough. The wife was pregnant with their 3rd. They kept apologizing for their kids running through the rooms, touching everything, being loud and alive. I told them this house was built for noise, for life. I'm glad it's going to someone who'll fill it. I cried when I signed the papers, but not sad tears, release tears, goodbye tears. I got $1.18 million after fees and agent commissions. I gave $5,000 to Daniel, $5,000 to Christine. They cashed the checks. Neither one called to say thank you. I didn't expect them to. The rest of the money went into 2 places: a trust for the Robert J. Morrison Memorial Scholarship Fund and a modest account for me to live on. I bought a cottage, a small 2-bedroom place about 20 minutes from Emma's university. It cost $175,000. I paid cash. No mortgage, no debt. It's mine, completely mine. It has a small kitchen with a window over the sink that looks out at a garden I'm planting, herbs and vegetables and Robert's roses. I dug up 3 bushes from the old house and transplanted them. They're struggling, but I think they'll survive, like me. The house has 1 bathroom with a shower that has excellent water pressure, a living room with a fireplace that works, 2 bedrooms, 1 for me, 1 for Emma when she visits, which is often. Too often, probably. She should be at parties, meeting boys, living her life. But she says she likes it here, says it's quiet, says I make good coffee. This morning, I woke at 6:30. No alarm. My body just knows now. The morning light comes through my bedroom window and hits the wall in a warm square that moves as the sun rises. I made coffee in my new coffee maker, a gift from Emma on my 73rd birthday last month. It's one of those expensive ones that grinds the beans fresh. Emma set it up for me and programmed it and said, "Graham, you deserve good coffee." I sit at my kitchen table with my blue ceramic mug, the one I bought in Maine and couldn't bear to leave behind, and I watch the birds at the feeder I hung last week. Cardinals, blue jays, small brown birds I don't know the names of yet. At 7 o'clock, I start making bread. Robert's recipe, the one he taught me in 1976. I haven't made it in 12 years, but my hands remember. The way flour feels between fingers, the rhythm of kneading, the patience of waiting for dough to rise. The kitchen smells like yeast and warmth and possibility. At 10 a.m., Emma texts me, "Dinner Thursday?" I text back, "I'll make the pie." She sends me a heart emoji. I send back a smiley face. I'm getting better at technology, learning what the symbols mean, how to communicate in this strange modern shorthand. Emma is patient with me, never makes me feel stupid. At 3:47 p.m., I'm sitting on my small back porch with a cup of chamomile tea and the book I've been reading. It's a biography of Eleanor Roosevelt, a woman who reinvented herself after her husband died, who refused to disappear just because the world expected her to. I'm halfway through, taking my time. There's no rush. The sun is warm on my face. In the distance, I can hear someone mowing their lawn, a dog barking, a child laughing, the sounds of life happening around me, not to me. My phone rings. I look at it. Unknown number. I don't answer. If it's important, they'll leave a message. If it's not, I've saved myself the effort of pretending to care. The phone stops ringing. Voicemail notification.
I don't check it. People have asked me if I'm lonely. They mean, do I miss my children? Do I regret what I did? Do I wish I could take it back? I tell them the truth. I don't miss who they became. I miss who I hoped they'd be. But that's not loneliness. That's just grief. And grief, I've learned, is better company than people who are waiting for you to disappear. I'm 73 years old. My knees hurt when it rains. I forget names sometimes. I fall asleep reading. I wake up with creases on my face from the pillow. My hands shake when I'm tired. I need reading glasses for everything now. But for the first time in 5 years, I'm not afraid of dying. Not because I'm ready to leave, but because I'm finally living. The house is small. The town is quiet. The garden is still mostly dirt and hope. The roses might not make it through the winter. The bread sometimes doesn't rise properly. The tea goes cold while I'm reading. But every morning I wake up and think, today is mine. Not a countdown, not a burden, not something to get through or survive or endure. Mine. And if that makes me selfish, if choosing to live instead of waiting to be mourned is cruel, then I'll carry that guilt to my grave, which I've decided won't be for a very long time. I take a sip of tea. It's still warm, and so am I.